welcome to Storyboard. I'm Shibani Gharat. Global luxury labels are going full desi. From Paris to Milan, Indian culture is the hottest runway trend. But how brands are using it, that's where the line between tribute and trend jacking gets blurry. Let's start with Prada. They dropped the leather toe sandals that looked a lot like Kolhapuris, but without credit. The internet wasn't having it. Cultural appropriation trended and Prada was forced to pedal back, eventually acknowledging the design's Indian roots. Now, they are exploring partnerships with Kolhapuri artisans, but only after being called out. Meanwhile, Louis Vuitton played a smarter game. Pharrell's spring-summer show was soaked in Indian aesthetics. Turmeric yellows, Nehru collars, even snakes and ladders runway. But the key? Full credit. Indian architect Bijoy Jain designed the set. A.R. Rahman crafted the soundtrack. It wasn't just India inspired, it was India involved. And then there is Dior. Maria Grazia Chiuri didn't stop at embroidery inspiration. She flew her show to Mumbai, partnered with Chanakya artisans and spotlighted India's handwork from start to finish. No guessing games, no denial, just honest collaboration. So here is the truth. India isn't just a mood board, it's a goldmine of talent, technique and tradition. Brands that respect that are winning fans and headlines. The rest, they are just playing catch up. Now moving on, Kantar, world's leading marketing data analytics company, has unveiled the winners of its 2025 Creative Effectiveness Awards in India, with standout campaigns from Godrej, Danone, HUL and Haleon leading the charge. We caught up with Soumya Mohanty, Managing Director and Chief Client Officer at Kantar, to decode doll-like comfort of great Indian advertising, explore the rise of multilingual storytelling and ask whether global luxury brands borrowing Indian motifs are truly celebrating or commodifying culture. Soumya, welcome to CNBC TV 18.
Thank you, and thank you for having me here.
Soumya, let's begin this conversation with the awards. Amongst this year's winners like Godrej, Danone or HUL, which campaign best exemplifies the idea of culture as a context and creativity as a catalyst, according to you? And what made it special?
Let me take the example of Danone, which is the Protinex ad, to just talk about, it's actually winning in the unstereotype category. So I would say it shows the emerging dynamic of the relationship in a family between the man and the woman in an extremely normal way. So it normalizes the culture, the emerging culture in India, which is pretty rare because advertising normally treats it as an exception rather than as a norm. I think that's a very good example. It's winning in the unstereotype category, but it's a very good example of culture evolves and brands need to tune into the culture.
Also, these tiny slices of life, like, rainy train platforms or festive rituals, according to you, are driving resonance. Can you share an example of such an ad where, a micro moment like this, like, the micro real moment like this led to like a larger macro impact?
I think monsoon and Maggie. That is a theme they have built many times. It's a beautiful micro moment. Monsoon is typically Indian, and you want some hot piping comfort food to go with monsoon. Very simple, very clean micro moment. I think another sort of a micro moment is that hospital waiting room where you share a cup of tea, and that's the red label ad. So I think it's about finding these typically Indian real micro moment. I think Indian comes from the fact that it is real. It is something that we can relate to. Finding these small moments and finding a way in which the brand can play a role in these moments. So you are not inserting the brand. It naturally belongs in that moment. And whenever you're able to do that well, it tends to do well.
Yeah.
I think.
Last year, we also saw, the likes of, South Indian films getting popular nationwide. So what are some of the things that, you have observed in the non-Hindi regions in India that have, had a larger impact, like some of the campaigns that have had larger impact, not just in those regions, not just those hyper-local campaigns, but have created a larger impact?
I think number one, we are finding a lot more sensitivity, to be honest. When we test ads in non-Hindi regions, we find them, especially when they are like, let's say, dubbed ads, we find a lot more sensitivity among the audience to cultural nuances. So one of the ads that has done well because it was created for South, what was, I think, one of our last year winners was the Godrej Fab ad. It actually looks at a South Indian politician and the larger than life kind of way in which politics and just movies in South India are. So there's a lot of theatrical element to it. It makes fun of it, but roots itself very center and square into the ethos, South and Tamil Nadu specifically. And it did very, very well. So you need to create for South. And once you create for South, it in the same way, like sometimes a pan-India view can travel, it can travel from there to North as well. I don't think it has been tried enough, to be honest. Till now, it has always been create a pan-India ad and sort of dub it or make some small minor changes to make it more culturally appropriate. But the insight or the idea it has not been picked up from one state and then made into a pan-India thing. But probably time has come for that. It hasn't yet happened on a large scale, to be honest.
Soumya, interestingly, we are also speaking in a week where we saw these large global luxury brands borrowing Indian culture, Indian motifs, and using it on their runways. Whether it's Kolhapuri chappal or whether it's sari or, whether, it's A.R. Rahman's music which is being used on the runway. So how do you look at, this Indian culture's impact, when it comes to, many of these global brands borrowing Indian culture? How do you look at it?
I think there is a lot for global brands to pick up from India, to be inspired from India. And it's good they're doing that. They're still doing it superficially, to be honest. It's not a real deep understanding of how can we take an idea from India, which is rooted in the culture of India, and how do we make it applicable to rest of the world? Something that we know, we have started learning because we have to do it, right? Because we are so many different cultures and brands have to work across India. Indian creativity needs to explore that more globally rather than expect global, people from other countries to look at India and then see what I can take from here. It should be us telling them what to take from here or actually partnering in those campaigns, creating those ideas on the Google forum. And it's when it doesn't look like a caricature. That's when it will look true.
Yeah, and also because the country is now for these global brands what China was like a decade ago. Still we are, there is a long way to go, but Soumya, with brands borrowing, these Indian motifs, how should Indian artisans and designers be more visibly credited? Because you also mentioned the superficiality aspect of it. So how can they be included in this global creative process so that not just, Indian culture is front and center, but also, it looks real. Like, how can they do that?
The only way they can do that if leaders of the Indian creative industry take it forward, right? If they start celebrating it and if they find global hooks for it. And I would also say Indian brands that are going global. There are many Indian multinationals. Now, when Indian multinationals talk about their brands outside India, and they don't talk too much about their brands outside India, compared to the way a typical Western multinational would do in India. So I think they need to talk a lot more about their brands in the Indian context outside India. And that's how it will become real. The way China has developed its brands as it has gone global. I think both the things have to work. The Indian creativity and Indian brands both have to work together to take the Indian narrative to rest of the world.
Finally, before we go, looking ahead, what creative trends do you expect will define the next phase of Indian advertising, particularly in the context of, the whole AI cycle, creator economy, increasing in such a big way, and, the whole cultural fragmentation that we have seen?
I think creative and the big idea, the consumer truth and the brand strategy is losing ground. Format and just speed of execution and just, this view that we will hyper personalize and reach at the right moment and all the performance metrics that are getting tracked. So the real answer to that is I don't know, because I feel we may be living in the last couple of years of genuine creativity, which is based on genuine consumer moments that matter to consumer, and where brands are playing the role of a hero and the classical brand building. So, yeah, a bit cynical right now, but let's hope creativity takes the center stage. Creative and effective consumer advertising takes the center stage again.
Thank you so much, Soumya. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks for sharing your insights with us.